All right, guys, today I'm going to be writing melodies in the key of C major. You guys will learn how to basically start from scratch and make your melodies. So let's hop straight into FL Studio. If you don't know me, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We train over 1 million producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, Lil Baby, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Glorilla, won Grammys, a lot of stuff. All right, so firstly, let's pick an instrument here. Let's open up. Let's just stick with FL stuff for now. Let's go with Flex. Let's go to the store tab. Make sure you guys download the essential packs here. We're going to look for the essential pianos and the essential strings. Let's go to essential pianos. Let's go to Yamaha C7. Let's turn off these effects. And let's right click here. Let's go to piano roll. So we're at 140 BPM. I usually just stay at the default BPM unless I have a very specific thing in mind. I'll tap the BPM out. For now, let's just right click. Let's go to the snap to grid. Go to 1/2 beat. All right, so we're going to write in the key of C major, which is all the white notes starting from C. So let me give you guys a couple ways to approach this. Firstly, I'm just going to give you guys techniques. If you guys want to study the deeper knowledge about how to do this from absolute scratch, that's like in our 5-hour course. Just go to busyworksbeats.com. Look for the music theory essentials. You guys could use code 50 or 50 during the checkout to get 50% off. So thank you guys for watching today. So what we're going to do is map out what's called the major 7th chord type, C, E, G, B. This creates the major 7th chord. Okay, but we're not going to play it like a chord. We're going to play it like picked notes. So let's do C, E, G, B. Let's get this in time. Okay, now to spice this up, instead of playing C, E, G, B in this kind of expected manner, let's flip B and G. And then let's pull this down an octave. And then let's pull everything up an octave. Control up. So basically it should sound something like this. So we have C. Okay, so we have that C, C. This, we're just playing the octaves here. We're playing the 3rd. And then to the 7th. And then back to the 5th. So the 5th is the end note here to resolve it because it wants to come back down to the tonic. So let's spread this out. Give this a little more rhythm here so it sounds longer. Okay, now the problem most people have is the velocity is not realistic. In real life, you wouldn't play the same way every single time. Grab the ellipses at the bottom of the piano roll. Drag this up, go to the left side where it says control, go to note velocity. A shortcut you guys could use is the tool here, go to humanize. This is one way to go about it. It's just easier to play stuff by hand most of the time. Just being honest with you guys, just play stuff by hand. It's a lot better with the MIDI controller. But I assume you guys don't have one. Okay, so nextly is like when people ask me where to go next, this is where harmony and chord progressions come into play. So, you know, I'll give you guys like a cheat sheet, but keep in mind chord theory goes pretty deep. So if you go to busyworksbeats.com, I covered this. If you hear like a buzz on my mic, it's just because the mic is just loud for my fan and the preamp is not the right preamp. So that's why you guys hear that little sound. Anyhow. Okay, we're going to count down 5 semitones from wherever we are. So in this case, if we're at C, we're going to count down 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to go to G. So we could copy this quite literally over to G. And we can repeat. It's a little safe. Let's do the opposite way. Instead of going down 5, let's go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that kind of takes us somewhere. Let's repeat this pattern. Let's hit control, highlight these notes, hit shift, left click, drag it over. Now at the end here, I'm going to go to down 5 notes from where we started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, before I get into the weeds about everything, we're just going to change this F sharp to F. This changes the chord type to a dominant chord, which is the proper chord for this specific scale. So we can't just copy and paste a major chord over. And B in key, I should say. So my ear doesn't like this natural voicing for the dominant chord. If I re-voice this chord so that you guys can actually see, what I like to do is either raise the fifth up a half step. It just adds a little more tension, but I usually play this in the ninth extension. I'm trying not to go too deep about everything, but I usually play this chord in what's called the ninth chord extension, and I also alter the chord. I'll just show you guys what it is before I just talk music theory and ease. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we're going to take the fifth and the ninth because they're tonal twins, okay? And then we're going to pull that up a half step. And it creates more tension in the chord. So we're going out of key, but it's going to create the tension for the turnaround. So when people ask me what chord is next, you guys got to understand basic harmony, which we teach at busyworksbeats.com. Now we just got to figure out which notes we want to play. Let's humanize this and then let's change out the actual sound. Let's humanize. Sometimes when you humanize, you have to remove overlaps. You guys have to download that script from the Image Line forums. Look for piano roll scripts and then look for the remove overlaps. Okay, so now let's swap out the sound. The sound is very like just vanilla, so let's swap it out. Let's use a synthesizer here so we can get a little more. I'm going to use the new Anthem plugin from Universal Audio so I could get used to the tone. Pull this back. So already it has more character. I like that dark octave. Let's go to song mode. Swap out the sounds. Let's go by genre. Let's see if we can find some stuff in here. That sounds pretty Kanye-esque. Seems like it has a sequencer on it somewhere. I might be making that up, but it sounds sequenced. Oh, here's the sequencer right here. So it's changing a couple of those notes. We're just going to pull those back to 0. And it's changing one of the octaves. So this is very Kanye to me. Let's add some chorus. Add some envelope to the filter. I'm just tweaking stuff until we get a really quirky sound. Let's add a little delay here. Switch it to a spring reverb. So I like the weirdness of the tone so far. So basically it's key tracking the filter here. Or whatever this is, like the voice index, I should say. It's an interesting synth, that's for sure. Is that a little more voicing? Again, feels very Kanye. Let's see what this growl is. I'm not sure what this is. Is that a little white noise? That like Kanye type vibe. So it's weird. It's a weird sound for sure. Let's swap out the LFO shapes. a little more predictable here. All right, so now we have our custom sound. It's a bit quirky, but it's definitely in that Kanye realm. Let's add one more octave jump in here. All right, so again, we could be on the sound all day long. So it's just a different vibe. And we started with the piano on that one. And now for our next sound here, let's go to a more classic approach. Let's go to the Rhodes. And we're going to write in a Dorian mode. Actually, let's just stick to starting at C. Actually, let's try different things. Okay. So I think we're going to write in what's called the Dorian mode because we're going to start at the 2. We're going to use what's called a 2-5-1 chord progression. I'm just going to show you guys what the notes are to not bore you guys with all the music theory talk here. But basically, I'm going to use a big chord starting at D here. This is the 2nd scale degree. This plugin's a little quiet, so we got to amp it up a little bit. All right, so I usually like the D minor 9th chord. Now, for this technique, I usually omit the 9th because if you raise the 3rd, which I'm about to do, it's too close to the 9th and it causes too much dissonance. So instead of doing that, what I'll do is I'll just omit the 9th, or I'll make it an 11th chord. Let's go down. Let me switch out the preset here for more of a let's add a little chorus. Okay, so now we have a really big chord, and you know, melody, the foundation of melody is harmony. Okay, so let's use a raised 3rd here. And we could pivot around that note. And then come back down. And because we have so many notes, we don't have to worry about overlapping the notes here. The chord is so large that normally, you know, I'm trying to explain this. I would separate the top line in a whole different octave, but for this type of chord, you could play within the chord itself, and it feels natural. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just switch the chord type. Now this is a really big chord, so I'm debating if I want to go 11th or just the 7th chord. I think I might just do 7th. And I'll show you guys the technique. What we could do is copy over a minor chord, take the 5th and the tonic, and just drop it down a half step. And then we could change these notes. All right, so now we have that like Tyler the Creator type vibe. See how everything's primarily built off of harmony? Now we want to go dun. So let's just copy this over, and if it feels wrong, we'll convert the chord type from minor to a major. So now we're starting at the Dorian mode. So the ear is kind of like, okay, it doesn't know the tonic yet. Okay, now over here, we're going to go, I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. We're going to go to what's called the dominant 9th chord with a sharp 5, sharp 9. And what we're going to do here is insert this in at G. I know I'm getting a little music theory heavy here, but let's see here. Let's add this in. And what we're going to do is then resolve back to C. Let's use a major ninth chord. And then I'll kind of go da da da. Let's do sharp 5, sharp 9, which is that same top note there. Yeah, so we really don't need to re-trigger it. So my ear wants to hear dun, dun, dun. Let's add this A sharp up here. Let's see what that would even be in the traditional chord. So in the traditional chord, assuming that C is our tonic, you know, this is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So it's a flat seventh that we're adding here with A. Usually with the flat seventh, we could do a mess with the third, but let's just see what it sounds like, because this is a diminished chord here. Let's just see what it sounds like first. And then we're going to keep it up at the top there. All right, so it didn't resolve the exact way I wanted. So we're going to start moving the notes around until it sounds more cohesive to my ear. So this F is really critical for this chord type. My ear again wants to hear this E. So this is where color tones come into play. It's just like that last little bit of cohesion. There we go. Now it feels more full. All right, so we have our second melody. Now that's more chord based, but you know, it's a moving chord. So let's see what we have so far. We're at the same BPM. Okay, so we're going to use a similar concept here. I'm trying to think, what instrument should we use for this one? So again, if you guys struggle with sound selection, just start with a grand piano. Don't make it complicated. We just need what's called a polyphonic synth. Polyphonic means you can play many notes at once. Let's do our serum pack actually. So I have a serum pack called Helios at busyworksbeats.com/Helios. You can go to busyworksbeats.com/Helios to get a free demo of it. Let's use the demo sounds actually. So it's a really unique sound, and because it's so unique, you want to give these notes room. So let's try one technique here. Let's go to the piano roll. And first we want to find the minor chord of this scale. So again, C major is all the white notes. There's only, what, 1, 2, 3 minor chords in this scale, which is D minor, E minor, and A. So let's start at E. And let's make a 7th chord here at E. So it's E, G, B. Now this sound really isn't built for 7th chords. Let's switch it out for an E piano. And then we're going to copy this over, take that tonic in 5th, pull it down a half step. We need a sound that's like more, let's try this. Okay, and then we could drop down to D. And let's do, we're getting a little complex here, y'all, but let's do a dominant 9th chord again at D sharp or a C sharp. So we're basically falling back down to the tonic chromatically. So we're going out of key, but we're in key. And then we're going to land at C. And then we're going to swap the sound. All right, now let's swap the sound out because that sound wasn't built for that. All right, so to kind of give it like an ending here, we could take the same chord type. And then we could make it a dominant chord. We can also, let's try some things. We can make it a dominant chord. That's one way to create like a turnaround, just convert this to a dominant chord. Or let me think here, we could convert this to, we could try the minor version just by raising our tonics. But instead of doing this, thinking of a better technique, because I want this note to be the same. So I'm looking for a tense way. So again, I think the easiest way is just make a dominant chord here, starting at C, and then making sure we have D is the top note there. Again, my favorite thing to do is sharp 5, sharp 9, and then let's flatten this. All right, so now we have a nice chromatic walk down. All right, so what I'll do for this specific track is just spread these out a little bit more so that we have so see how going out of key is the sound, but ultimately we're focusing on C major here. And this is more of a turnaround. So now let's create an arpeggio. Let's see if we could turn on Serum's arpeggio on the front tab. Let's go to arpeggio. Let's just arpeggiate the notes within themselves. So I like this chord, I just think there's too many notes in the arpeggio. So we need to get rid of one of the notes. We can get rid of the third. So whenever you have this big chord, you want the arpeggio to sound simpler, you could get rid of the third. All right, so see how we still maintain the tension? So now let's just add some effects. Okay, let's get a little weird with Serum. Let's add some reverb. Let's make it mono. So I'm just shaping the size of the play reverb here. Let's add a little quick delay. Just to fill in some of that gap. So like, it's like like that. And one cool thing would be if I could pitch this up an octave, but it's kind of hard to do. So let's try a plugin called Transporter. This is a nice granulizer. And the new FL, they're gonna update this to where it's easier to use, but right now we're just gonna add this in as ear glitter. I might kind of like it going backwards. It's too much motion to combine these and the original. We could turn it way down, but it might be too full. So this is what we're adding to the sound. Very subtle. It's almost like a pitched delay. So that's synth, you know, swap the synth out for something else. Let's just swap it out for a different synth. That synth seems very specific. The synth is more everyday use case. So remember, we're still in C major here. Next melody, let's use what's called the major add 9 chord. I'm just going to show you guys. I teach you guys in much more depth at busyworksbeats.com. I just don't have time to explain everything about everything right in this video. So let's start at C. And let's play C, E, G, which is going to be our... Let's pull this down an octave. Now, the cool part is this is a very guitar safe technique too. And the question is, you guys might not know where to go to next. So again, like I said, you guys can go down 5 semitones. That'll take you to the 5th. And you can just repeat it. And you can go up 5 semitones. But let's start revoicing these notes because we don't want the chords to be so far apart. All right, so let's add some effects to this to make it more dreamy. See if we can have a filter in here somewhere. Let's add some reverb, some dreamy reverb. And let's EQ some lows out here. So just so it's not such a heavy sound. Because the compression's so heavy, you know what we could do? Never mind. Let's use the output gain here. So I'm turning down the output gain and cranking the EQ into the compression so it grabs on the sound more for more detail. Let's try different effects here. Let's add a long tail. There we go. Now it's more dreamy. Now it feels more like a guitar. And we can get fancy and revoice some of these chords just so it's a little more exotic. So let's do that. Let's do that dominant 9th chord here. So it's basically a major triad with a minor 7th. But again, we want to do sharp 5, sharp 9 here. So let's map it out first. Here's the chord, and then we need to figure out how to voice this chord to where it's only 4 notes. Simple technique is take out the 3rd. So we can leave it like that, but let's sharp that 5. Let's raise the 5th and 9th here up a half step, just to see what it sounds like. So now we're going out of key, but it adds just a small amount of tension. Now here, let's figure out a way to add the note D. Okay, so now we have a dreamy vibe here. So far we have 4 melodies. Let's hear these all back to back. All right, let's try one more instrument here, and for this technique, we're gonna use what I call passing chords. I'm gonna again, kind of skip around some theory. We're not gonna get too crazy with it. Let's just use the grand piano here. And we're gonna start in the Dorian mode, which is basically starting at the 2nd scale degree of C major. So we're not starting at C here. And let's see here. So we have DFA. All right, so passing chords. Let's see what kind of chord we could do. Let's try. We're gonna have a MIDI controller right here. So I'm just gonna record this in. This is much faster. All right, so really we're playing from the Dorian position and then we land in the relative minor scale. So this is, again, like I said, if you guys get confused about what I'm saying, go to busyworksbeats.com. I have many courses explaining this stuff. Look for the Music Theory Essentials. Here we have a half diminished chord. We have the diminished, and then we have, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a diminished chord. But then we don't have a diminished 7th, which would be, the note on the diminished 7th would be right here. But we're not using a diminished 7th. We're using a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a minor 7th on top. And then we're doing a flat 7 back to a diminished 7th here. So now we can add notes on top of this, up an octave or 2. So let's add this in. Now we're just going to use perfect fifths to jump around. So EA. we're using octaves of the same note. All I'm doing is just jumping around fifths. So that sounded like I was improvising. All I'm doing is going from E, half step up, back to E. And then E, we're going to the fifth of E, which, or excuse me, the fifth of A is E. So E to A, they work together basically. And D to A is the perfect fifth. So all I'm doing is just figuring out the fifth of the note that I'm playing. So if I start here at D, the fifth of D is A. So I can jump to that note. I can also ask myself, okay, what is D the fifth of? And G is the answer there. So those notes will work in this scenario. Also, if I move up to E, I can resolve down to A, which is the tonic if that were the fifth. So that's how it sounds like I'm doing this crazy improv. I'm just thinking in perfect fifths. I didn't even know that had a reverse. That's pretty dope. Is that a little bit more reverse? Let's make it a long reverse. And now we have these cool little artifacts in there. It's pretty dope. I'd never noticed that before. Also, I'm producing in C major, but let's change the tuning to 432 or 445 or 450. So it's going to feel like a different key, even though it's the same exact notes. Let's hear all these melody ideas. I'm going to pull the last piano back to 440 just so I could do one thing here. So we're going to actually pull this back to 440 only for the video's sake, so it doesn't sound too out of key. All right, let me show you my one last thing I like to do. I like to combine all the groups, in this case, Control G. So anything melodic, I'll combine. On the left side, we could take this picker panel. Let's right click and transpose this. I like to pull it down 3 keys or down 1 or +3. So let's start with 3. Let's start with -3. So to me, the piano had the most emotion, mainly because we're doing a lot more technique, octaves, perfect fifths, and separating the harmony from the top line very exclusively, or distinctively, I should say. So that is me writing melodies in the key of C major. Just wanted to show you guys, we transposed it at the end. I think it sounded great. I think the piano sounded great in its original tone. I think everything else sounded great. Dropped 3 semitones. So I just wanted to show you guys, C major is not always a boring key. You got to know how to make it sound cool. All right, subscribe if you're new. Go to busyworksbeats.com, learn some music theory. Use the code 50 for 50% off. Peace out, guys.